So we have taken you to the removal of the core. Surface cleaning and inspection, of course, right? Removal of sand from the casting surface and otherwise enhancing the appearance of the surface. Cleaning methods: tumbling, air blasting with coarse grit or metal shot, wire brushing, buffing, chemical pickling. These are different things. Air blasting, right? Just like hair dryer, right? Or wire brushing. Wire brush you have used in the mechanical workshop. Buffing is polishing. Chemical pickling, right? Very light chemicals which remove the stains and so on. Surface cleaning is most important for sand casting. In many permanent mold processes, this step can be avoided. We will see later on that if the casting is of a quality which can be directly used, then you don't need this. But in sand casting, you need it. Defects are possible in casting, and inspection is needed to detect their presence, right? In any manufacturing operation, defects are possible. So after all this surface cleaning and some small even grinding or buffing, I mean, when you say the word buffing, it is very small scale surface grinding and so on. The last step is polishing and buffing. Before that, you can even do, right? So there can be all these things, and then you inspect that after doing all these trimming and cleaning and buffing and so on, is any defect there? Some defects can be removed. You can do small repairs and so on in the casting, and some defects are so bad that you have to reject the casting. That happens in any manufacturing. That after manufacturing, you inspect it, and some of the parts are directly passed away. Some defects are there which are found by the quality control people, so they are sent back to production, and the production then decides that can we remove these defects. After removing the defects, they are sent back to the quality control inspectors again. Maybe the defects are gone and it is ready for shipment, or the production people decide that no, this defect is too large and this cannot be repaired, so this will be scrapped. Heat treatment. Castings are often heat treated to enhance the properties. We told you, right, that one of the types of manufacturing is material enhancement right? So heat treatment may be required. Reasons for heat treating a casting: for subsequent processing operations such as machining. Maybe we need some machining later on, so we do need to heat treat a little so that the material is stronger. Maybe to bring out the desired properties for the application of the part in the service. I mean, when the part was designed, then at the time of design, the people knew that we will do casting, and during casting, this will be the pouring temperature, this will be the cooling rate, and so on. But at the end, we need some enhancement of the properties, right? So from the time of the design, this is designed into the whole life cycle, that you will make the casting, you will clean it, this, that, everything. Once it is completely ready, maybe you will need to heat treat. You don't do this if it was not there from the beginning in the life cycle of the product, right? So this is again done. That is why I keep on telling you that the three fields of materials, manufacturing, and design are totally married together. If you are in the design office and you don't know all these steps that will be required in manufacturing, then you can't do it. If you don't know all about the materials that you are using, and that no, after doing the casting, I will still need to do heat treatment on this material to get the desired properties, then again your design is bad and so on, right? So material science and engineering, manufacturing processes, design, all three go together. And as I introduced you in the beginning, I am basically in the design and manufacturing area. In the industry, I have worked like that. During my PhD, I have worked like that. After my PhD and during teaching and with lots of projects with the industry, we have worked like that. I am in design and manufacturing. So materials is just a background requirement, has to be. But if I have to design, then I have to be very, very good in all the manufacturing steps also. Otherwise, I can't select the proper manufacturing process, or I can't select the proper manufacturing steps. So if I am in the design office for this particular casting, this which we have just done, then from the beginning we have selected a very good material, the alloy that has to be. And then from the beginning we know that after doing all the casting steps, we have to do heat treatment, right? We have to do heat treatment. So this is important. With that last slide, we finished the biggest type of casting operation that is done in the world. Most popular casting method all over the world is sand casting. So that we have now finished in a lot of detail. We gave you a lot of detail of the mold, of the different parts of the mold, cope and drag and sprue and so on, right? We gave you a lot of calculations based on Bernoulli's equation and this and that for the design of the mold, right? Then what are the melting practices? Of course, melting practices are general, but generally they are used in sand casting because you have to do the melting separately. And once it is completely molten, then you pour it in the mold. So all the melting practices, right? And then all these steps, pattern making, core making, molding, right? All these steps of sand casting, right? So with this now, we have finished the most popular and the most common method in the world, which is used in the world of casting, right? So please go through them again. You see, reading them in the lecture notes is one level. Going through the video lectures is the second level. So doing it twice is already, making it there permanently in your mind. But revising it once more within 2 to 3 days of hearing the lecture, right? That's always the key. If you went through the lecture notes and the video lectures, but now left it for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then came back to revise it, then it is not fresh in your mind. But within 2 to 3 days of doing the video lecture, if you revise it with any calculations and so on also, then it is fresh in your mind. And it is now the third time. Lecture notes, the PDF, video lectures, and one revision. Now you don't need to revise it almost at all. It is there in your mind very solidly, right? So this is how I would like to do it, but this is up to you. If you do it properly, you save a lot of time. So you are free to do other activities. If you do it improperly, you leave it for a long time, then for the same revision, you take much longer and you keep on saying, I am too, worked out, I don't have time for anything else. It is only bad timing, bad planning. So time management is important. Okay, so sand casting is done. A new type of casting now, shell mold casting. One thing let me tell you, because sand casting is the most popular, the most common one around the world, and through sand casting, we have already taught you all these steps. So now these other methods, we will only introduce. We will not cover in a lot of detail because you see, you know the world of casting by now. Shell mold casting. Casting process in which the mold is a thin shell of sand held together by thermosetting resin binder, right? You understand shell, right? There is a whole body. There is a whole body. But if the body is a hollow, the whole body is defined by only an outer shell, then this is a shell. You understand that this is a shell. Inside it is hollow. So the sand mold is a full sand mold. The whole cope and the whole drag is packed with sand. But here, the mold is itself only a shell. We don't need a lot of sand. So yes, a thin shell of sand. Therefore, a special kind of binder is used. You know plastics, you know polymers from your material science course. So thermoplastics and thermosetting plastics. So this is thermosetting type. This method can produce many types of castings with close tolerances and good surface finish at low cost. So this is the advantage, that with normal sand casting, you can produce very complex shapes from a small to large size, but generally you need a lot of finishing operations. But here when we say with close tolerances, so you don't need many finishing operations for the dimensions, and with good surface finish, so you don't need grinding and so on also for surface finish at a low cost. So this is important. Of course, because it is a thin shell, so we cannot make every type of design very complicated and so on, we cannot. But whatever designs we can do, there are three major advantages. Closed tolerances are there, so the dimensions are already final. Very good surface finish is there, so the surface finish is already final and the cost is low. Mounted pattern is made of ferrous metal or aluminum. So the pattern is made of iron or steel or aluminum. It is heated, it is coated with the parting agent, it is clamped to the box containing fine sand with binder. We will show you the picture, but please remember, right, that there is a mounted pattern, which is metal. It is heated, it is coated with the parting agent, it is clamped to the box containing the fine sand and binder. The sand mixture is turned over the heated pattern, coating it evenly. The assembly is generally placed in an oven for hardening and curing. The shell hardens around the pattern. This shell is removed using ejector pins. The two half shells are bonded or clamped together and then they are ready for pouring. Right? So this is the way the shell mold is made. So if you can see here a schematic illustration of the shell molding process. This is also called the dump box technique. Dump. It is a P, not B. Dumb. If it is B, then it is an unintelligent person. Dumb. Dump, you dump something. Dump box. Right? So the P and the B are very important. So this whole thing is the dump box. This is the pattern. Right? And the pattern plate is there. And this is the sand which is already mixed with the binding agent and so on. Right? So the pattern plate is there. Right? It is there. It will be closed. Once it is closed, it will be rotated. So this fine sand with the parting agent and binder and everything will cover this. Right? So it will be rotated. So this dump box is rotated. Dump box with the pattern is rotated. Right? Pattern and dump box in position for the investment. So this is now later on. Right? This is now later on. So now it will just make a shell. This will just make a shell. Right? This will just make a shell. It is continuing. The pattern and shell are removed from the dump box. So now the pattern and shell are removed from the dump box. Once they are removed, right, excess coated sand is still there, but now this shell is there. The shell is there. Okay, the shell is there. And this way you make the top part and the lower upper part, right? The pattern, the mold is made in two parts. So mold adhesives joined together, mold halves. There is one half of the mold, there is the other half of the mold, and they come together and they are joined either by adhesives or by clamps. So now this is your shell, right? A thin shell. This is still a type of a sand, a very fine sand, much finer than normal sand casting, and it is now a thin shell. And this mold is then placed in a flask, and the metal is poured. But right, so this is in steps the shell mold casting. So we are again to reinforce this. We are showing it with other drawing steps in shell molding with a simpler schematic diagram, right? That the dump box is there, the sand with the resin and the binder is there, the pattern is placed, and it is already a heated pattern. So now if you rotate it, this sand will cling to it, will stick to it, right? And there will be a shell created around it. So this is one more drawing of the same process which we have just shown you, but this is just so that we understand it more strongly and cleanly and clearly.